So we're back. And you might notice every day there's like a different background. It's like not set up uh, like a professional uh, studio or whatever. But the thing is, I will never make this content unless I just get out of the way and just start making it. So you're just gonna see me as I am every day. It's not edited. It's really just pure conversation. And like I said, this is the only way to get it out. So today we're going to talk about stablecoins, which I think is really interesting at the moment. If at all you are into any like financial media outlets or anything of the sort, you might notice there's a pattern this week or something that keeps coming up, and that is this conversations of stablecoins that seem to have come out of nowhere, and you might even be wondering what the heck is a stablecoin. How is it different than cryptocurrency? Is it the same as a cryptocurrency? Why is Amazon talking about launching a stablecoin? Why is JP Morgan talking about launching a stablecoin? Even Hong Kong this week is pushing forward their initiatives to have stablecoin regulation by, or at least pushing forward by August 1st to have not that everyone in Hong Kong could be able to create a stablecoin, but certain entities or banking systems will be able to apply by August 1st to be a stablecoin issuer. And so I think that's super interesting. Also, Goldman Sachs is leading the way, BNY Mellon, both two huge banks globally and in the US, but they are leaning towards stablecoins and blockchain innovation, which I think is so big. And if by now at all you have developed any interest in XRP or blockchain as a whole, this is a huge moment. And it's not that I'm saying like stablecoins are the next big thing, which I think they are, but it's stablecoins are opening the way to blockchain innovation, and they are a part of blockchain innovation. And so, like as I research, the reason I wanted to bring this up is let's look at what's happening right now in the world, which is there's a mass movement towards stablecoins, and it sounds like lots of big organizations are using or will be using stablecoins very soon. And what does this mean for Ripple? What does this mean for XRP? What does this mean for me and you? And what is a stablecoin? So that's kind of where I wanted to start. So basically, in the most simple way, a stablecoin is a digital representation of either a currency, a fiat currency, so the US dollar or another type of dollar anywhere in the world, or euro or something like this. But it's usually a one-to-one backing of a real currency, and it lives online, and it's able to be traded, but it pegs to the dollar. So as opposed to like a cryptocurrency, it doesn't have the volatile nature that a cryptocurrency has. So like if you're going to use it for a payment, and if you're going to send a cryptocurrency, it could fluctuate very quickly, and so the money that you either want to send or that is being received could completely change by the time it reaches the recipient. So with a stablecoin, you're able to send money through payments with a stable nature that will hold its value throughout the transaction. And then also the transaction is happening in fractions of a second compared to the movement of money today that, as if you look back at some of my old videos, we talked about uses the Swift system or other messaging systems to move money cross border, usually because this is what we're talking about. We're talking about banking systems and this kind of thing, but they use an older messaging system that takes 2 to 5 days. There's problems and frictions along the way that allow the money to get held up, allow for the money to be hit with fees and other types of things that create friction along the process. Also, there's this thing called nostro vostro accounts, which with today's systems, if say a bank in America wants to send money to a bank in France, the bank in America has to pre-fund money for a potential client that they want to send money for to said bank in France. And that money sits in the bank in France until there is a client that wants to send the money. And so they use the messaging system to say, hey, we want to send money for this client, and we have the money sitting waiting, and so they like send a message to say, hey, yeah, we can want to send the money. They checked conversion rates, all these things. Takes a few days, and all of this happens. But with this new system, this would take away the need for pre-funded accounts because the liquidity where the money where it actually lives is actually built into the system of the stablecoin. Because of this one-to-one backing, the liquidity is built inside of the stablecoin. So in fractions of a second, transactions can be finalized, the liquidity is built into the system, and it's there. And so this is why it's really important to have clear regulations of what is a stablecoin, to actually understand what the backing must be for each region or each sector. And so everyone's going to have different rules or ideas, but I think there will be a higher standard that is needed to be understood in order for there to be global interoperability, because people really want to know that the money that they're sending is there. And so in the past, we've seen stable coins. I forget the name, but there was a stable coin that was built by a company, and it was supposed to be one-to-one backing, and through auditing at one point it was understood that instead of it being one-to-one, it was one stablecoin was actually 27 cents, and so trillions of dollars were just like evaporated. And the person that created this is I think he's in Montenegro right now, avoiding being restrained by the U.S. government or the Chinese government, if I'm not mistaken. And so these kind of things like are needed to be stopped. And so there's new regulation, and I found it really interesting as I was doing research, because even as you look at like Wikipedia and they talk about what is a stable coin, it goes into conversations of it could be backed one-to-one by a certain currency, or it should be this way, but there's no finite definitions. And the reason I think we're missing a finite definition is because there's yet to be regulatory certainty, or before this week, there was yet to be regulatory certainty to be able to say this is the standard of what it must be. And so this is where we're headed to. And so I think over time there'll be many stable coins that can be created by different organizations or banks, but there will be a higher tier of stablecoins that meet certain regulatory benchmarks. And so, all that being said, this is kind of in a nutshell what stablecoins are. Today, the main stablecoins on the market are USDT, which is Tether. There's USDC, which is Circle, and there's RLUSD, which is Ripple or XRP stablecoin. And the reason I bring this to the attention is right now, Tether USDT has been the number one, like the top stable coin that's been used, and it's been like taking a mass share or a mass quantity of like the share of money that's in stable coins. But the problem is, one, Tether has refused or hasn't been able to pass audit or even say that they're willing to be audited to prove that their reserves match a one-to-one backing. So basically, we don't know if they have the money in the reserves to actually support the money that they say they have, which is very uncomfortable. But yet we have stablecoins like RLUSD by Ripple that has, again, as I've said, we've gone through this many times, Ripple has a very high standard of what they want to live up to, how they behave, the clarity, the transparency that they live up to as a company. And already Ripple, by a third-party website this week, I kind of saw it in passing, but they were rated at a grade level A for a stablecoin, receiving the highest grade of any other stablecoin, whereas Tether got a D, which is very interesting. So I think as organizations are moving on to this idea of using stablecoins, they'll want to like look at Ripple and other stablecoin organizations that have this high grade level of how they produce content, what they stand for, if it's trustworthy. And I think this is what they want to model their stablecoins after. And even beyond just modeling their stablecoins after them, I think the other thing that's really cool with Ripple is Ripple has said since day one that they don't want to replace banks. They want to work beside banks to make them stronger and better. And so if I was a company that wants to create a stablecoin and I could either hire people internally to create this system from scratch, or I could find a company that is already has years of expertise that wants to work with the legacy systems and create a new innovative system like Ripple. And I could have them help me build from within to create something that I need. And this is what I believe is happening and why I still believe in Ripple and XRP. Because as I pointed out quickly, I was like really excited, but I just did a little research when I first saw Amazon wants to launch a stablecoin, and I just typed in like Amazon XRP partnership, and it was like within seconds it showed up on the Amazon website that they are actually using the XRPL ledger to help build out their infrastructure. And this hasn't been like publicly announced, but it's pretty cool to see it. And even with Hong Kong, I just saw like in the news this week or yesterday that Hong Kong's like equivalent of the Federal Reserve, the one that overlooks their money, they are actually the one that is building the stablecoin in Hong Kong. And they were talking about the need to speed up their processes and regulatory clarity to match the US so they're not left behind. And I just typed in like the connection between XRP and this Hong Kong institution, and Ripple has done a pilot program with this entity 2 years ago to create like blockchain and stablecoins and all these kind of things. And I don't know if they're still working with them, but it definitely didn't say anything about any kind of breakup that they've had. And so I just think it's very interesting that Ripple is still here. Ripple is still kind of being lined up to be the like the thing that you attain to want to be like at the mountaintop, I think, in my eyes. And as this conversation goes forward and people are thinking about how do I implement stablecoins, who do I use to build stablecoins? Are you going to go to the stablecoin company that has like a D rating that is unwilling to be clear about their reserve assets if they're really fully backed? Or are you going to go to the company that's fought for years with the SEC to have clarity about if like what their stance are, if they're a security or if they're a commodity, that has put people into play that have worked with banking organizations, that have really put clarity and transparency at the top of their list. And so I think it's super exciting. I don't think stablecoins, I think they're exciting and there's so much to see of where they'll go, and I could go on and on about stablecoins. But at the end of the day, stablecoins are just a digital representation of a fiat currency or some type of commodity that is a digital representation of something physically like underneath it. And so it moves quicker, faster, more efficiently, and it provides an on and off ramp for multiple currencies around the globe. And so I think this is really cool. Also, this week, which I kind of think supports this, the U.S. House passed two bills. One is focused on stablecoin regulation, great. The other one is around the oversight of crypto and like in general. And the stablecoin bill gives more power to state regulators and sets clear rules for issuing and managing these digital dollars. And so I think as we get to a place where we have clear rules that are set, we'll have a clear structure of who gets to participate. And I'm putting my money on someone like Ripple that has this high grade level standard of what they believe the system should look like. And I'm here for it. And so it's really exciting. The price is boring. Actually, it's dropping a lot. But this is why I sit with Ripple still. This is why I sit with XRP. We are being led into something that is truly exciting. And for me today, Ripple still checks the box of why I'm still here. It meets my hypothesis. And so Also, just to tie back in, Ripple has been working on launching its own U.S. dollar stablecoin, which I talked about as the RLUSD, and and I think they're in a great position to really succeed as there's this kind of doorway being opened for institutions to enter this space. And so, while many people are distracted by the price and speculation with other coins, I think the legal shifts could be setting a foundation for a whole new financial layer. And stablecoins are just the bridge into this new world. And I don't think the questions is if stablecoins will be used. It's who will control them and how will they be controlled. And so I think it's really exciting that we're entering a space where regulatory clarity is upon us and people are understanding the rules in which they can live by. And I think even things as like the Wikipedia that I looked up earlier, I think when we have deeper clarity and regulatory clarity, it'll be more definitive of what is a stable coin and what isn't a stable coin. And then we'll see which of these companies gets to rise to the top and actually lead the way into whatever's next. So I hope this is good. Thanks for joining me again. None of this is financial advice. I'm literally just having fun, doing research for entertainment purposes. But I hope you're getting something from this. If you have any questions, want to know anything, please ask. Also, like, subscribe, share. Thanks for joining me again, and I'll be back tomorrow with more content. See you later. Have a good night.